With monopoly, there's two types of monopolies that the test is going to ask you to be able to draw and analyze. Those are the price-discriminating monopoly, which we'll get to in a second, and the single price monopoly. Now, the single price is the more common one. That's the one that then gives us the graphs for monopolistic competition. So let's take a look at that one first. So since the monopoly is the one producer of the good, period, that means they are the whole market. And since they're the whole market, they're going to get the downward sloping demand curve all by themselves. There's no market firm separation here. Now, if it's a single price, that means everyone is going to get charged the same price on the monopoly. So let's say, the first person pays $10. Right? One person pays $10. Now, if I want to sell it to somebody else, the law of demand says I have to lower the price in order to increase the quantity. So if I want to sell 2, I need to lower the price to 9. Now, the problem with that is the original person who bought it for 10 is going to be like, what's going on? I don't want to pay 10 if everyone else is getting 9. So even though from 1 to 2, I bring in $9 worth of new revenue, I lose $1 of revenue from lowering the price for the original person. So that means my marginal revenue is only $8. So at this point, right, demand and marginal revenue start to separate. You get an MR curve that's separate from the demand curve because I always have to lower the price for all of my buyers if I want to sell more of the product. So let's get rid of the numbers for a second because it's a little bit easier to understand just conceptually without them. All right, let's say we've got downward sloping demand curve, marginal revenue curve below it for the reasons we gave earlier. Just like in perfect competition, now to find quantity, we have to draw in a marginal cost curve. That intersection, quantity monopoly, always gives us the quantity, and then if we go up to the demand curve, that gives us the price. Because if we remember, the demand curve is the ARP curve. It's the average revenue and the price curve. Now, is this good for the monopoly? Sure, because they get to charge a higher price to their consumers, but it's bad for society overall. Right? Society overall would rather be where marginal cost equals demand. Where marginal cost equals demand, that's the socially or allocatively optimal point. And so between quantity being here and quantity being at that socially optimal point, we're going to have our friend deadweight loss. Very hard to see, but deadweight loss. Now, how do we determine if the monopoly is profitable? Well, the same way as we determined if any firm was profitable. We draw in the ATC curve. ATC, again, hitting marginal cost at its minimum, but since it's intersecting the quantity line below the price monopoly, we get a profit box. Now, hard to see again, but where MC equals demand is at a quantity below the ATC curve. So it's actually losing money, and the monopoly is not going to be very happy with that. So the other way to regulate the monopoly would be to regulate it to this point where demand equals ATC. That's called fair return. And that allows the monopoly to break even, right? So big utility firms like ComEd are allowed to break even and be at the fair return price. All right, so that's a single price monopoly. Actually, that's also the short-run monopolistic competition graph. It's the same graph for short-run monopolistic competition. Now let's go over to the price-discriminating monopoly. What's the difference with price discrimination? Well, you can charge different prices to different consumers without them caring. So you notice how before we had our sort of 10-9 distinction? Well, at 10, that person's willing to buy. At 9, that person's willing to buy and doesn't care what the person at 10 is doing. So what's the marginal revenue we're bringing in? Well, it's going to be 9 because we sold to the new person without having to lower the price on the other person. So in this case, with a price discriminating monopoly, demand becomes equal to marginal revenue again. It goes back to being that Mr. Darb curve, but instead of being horizontal, because the firm is a price taker, it's downward sloping because the monopoly is a price setter. Again, we're going to get our MC curve. We're going to get the quantity for the monopoly and the price. But it's not the total price, it's the lowest price they're going to accept, because they're accepting prices from here all the way down to there. Now, the nice thing about this is if MC equals demand was socially optimal and allocatively efficient, this is eliminating deadweight loss. So hooray, we've eliminated deadweight loss. Well, how did we do it? Well, we eliminated deadweight loss by increasing the profit to the businesses. Because when I draw in, finally, the ATC curve, ATC is running into the quantity at a price lower than any of the prices I'm charging. I'll get rid of that because I'm actually charging all of these prices. So my profit, and I'm going to draw it red because it's a really big profit here, is this big old quadrilateral. Right? We got a huge profit because I get to price discriminate. I get to charge people different amounts. So the seniors are paying a little bit less. The younger people may be paying a little bit more, and so on. So they may ask you to draw this on a free response. They're definitely going to ask about it on a multiple choice. They will probably ask you to either draw monopoly or monopolistic competition on the free response. So you need to understand both of these graphs in order to succeed on the AP exam.